What does the process of making a trust look like? And what really happens to your assets when you die? In this video, I'm going to share the truth about how living trusts actually work so you can decide if a trust is right for your family. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please do so you can receive notification whenever I post a new video about living trusts. And my name is Edmund. I am a living trust lawyer. I've helped hundreds of families and I've taught thousands of people how to do it themselves. And I'm excited to share my tips and my tricks with you today. If you want to learn the entire process of how to make a trust yourself without hiring a lawyer, and you want to do it the right way, check out my free course online. It's www.freetrustclass.com. The link is in the description below. And just a really quick disclaimer, I'm not your lawyer. I'm not giving you any legal advice today. All I'm giving you is just information. If you have any legal questions, please talk to a lawyer. So what are you gonna learn today? The first thing you're gonna learn is you're gonna learn the process of making a trust. And also, you're gonna learn how a living trust can help you if you're disabled. Let's say you have dementia, or you're in a coma, you haven't passed away yet. How can your living trust help you? I'll go over that with you today. And last but not least, I'm also gonna share with you what happens to your trust when you die. How will your family inherit the assets? Who's gonna take control? Those are all questions that I'm gonna go through with you today. My goal for this video is to make sure you have a full picture of what it looks like to make a trust, and also what it looks like after you pass away or after you're disabled. I'll go through that whole process with you so you understand how everything actually works. So what's the process of making a living trust? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to decide whether or not you're gonna hire a lawyer. If you're gonna hire a lawyer, the process will be slightly different. If you're gonna do it yourself, the process will be different. And so I'm gonna go through both of these scenarios to help you understand what each process looks like and whether or not you wanna hire a lawyer to do it for you or to do it yourself. And again, if you wanna do it yourself, check out my free course at freetrustclass.com. So if you wanna hire a lawyer, what are you gonna do? What can you expect? Well, first you have to find one. You have to interview him or her, and then you're gonna have to select the lawyer. So I would recommend that you interview about 2 or 3. Find them online or through a referral. Whatever you're comfortable with, choose at least 2 or 3 to interview. And after you do that, select the one that you're most comfortable with. And the way that I define comfort is select someone who you trust with your family, because this lawyer is not just gonna do the estate plan for you once and that's it. They're gonna be with you throughout your lifetime because your plan's gonna change. So whenever you have a new kid, a new grandchild, or you wanna change the distributions, or you wanna change who controls everything, who manages everything when you pass away or when you become disabled, you need that lawyer there to help you make changes. So find a lawyer that you're most comfortable with, who cares about you, who really understands the law. Choose someone who does estate planning solely. Don't choose a lawyer that's been practicing many different types of practice areas, and estate planning is just one of them. You want a lawyer that just focuses on living trusts, on estate planning to help you, not just now, but also in the future as well. So if you hire a lawyer, the process typically takes about 1 to 3 months at the minimum. At my law firm, we try to keep it around 1 month, because when it extends to months or even years, that just takes too long, and you never know what's gonna happen in the meantime. And so find a lawyer who's not too busy to take care of you, that they have a team to be able to give you really good service at the shortest amount of time possible, so you can get this done, move on with your lives, and have this peace of mind that in case something happens to you, everything will be taken care of. So I'm not sure how other law firms do it, but I'm gonna share my process with you so you understand how working with a lawyer looks like from start to finish. I'm not trying to sell my services here. I'm just giving you information about how the process actually looks like. So when you reach out to me, you're going to schedule an initial phone call with me, and we'll spend about 30 minutes together, and I'll get to know your family and what your goals are. And then if you decide to work with me, Then we're gonna have 2 big meetings as part of the process. And the first meeting will be the design meeting, where I help you put together the design of the plan. It takes about an hour and a half. And so once we have the design, I get to draft the documents and write the documents and put them all together. And after I put them all together, I'm gonna schedule a second big meeting with you to review. So I go through each document with you. A lot of people don't understand what legal documents do, and so I really spend that time to educate you and make you aware of how these documents actually take care of your family when they need it most. And once you've approved the documents, we'll sign. I'll have my notary, for example, come to your house and help you notarize the documents. And then I'll also help you through this transfer process. So when you set up a trust, you have to transfer your real estate, your bank accounts into the trust. You have to update beneficiaries on your life insurance, on your retirement accounts. And so I walk you through that whole process. If you have real estate, I'll help you update the title to transfer title to the trust. And so that whole process typically takes about 4 to 5 weeks at this time at my firm. And so that's the process. And so you want to make sure that you work with a firm that has a very good process from start to finish, and so it doesn't drag on for months, and you know exactly what to expect during every stage of the engagement. And so that's how it looks like when you work with a lawyer. The lawyer is going to really help you understand what your goals are and to make those goals a reality through the legal documents that the lawyer does for you. So generally, it's always best to hire a lawyer, but the question is, what if you don't want to hire one? Or what if you don't have the funds or the budget to hire one? Well, in that case, you're going to do it yourself. And doing it yourself is pretty simple if you have a house, some bank accounts, a retirement, some life insurance, and you just want to leave it all to your kids when you pass away. You could potentially do that yourself. You don't necessarily need to hire a lawyer, because living trust and estate planning is not rocket science. There's so many tools now online that you can use. And so my key advice here, if you're gonna do it yourself, is to mimic the process of what a lawyer does to avoid mistakes. So many people, they just go online and they just find a trust online and they just do it in 10 minutes. That's not how the process works. Even though I've been doing this for years, I've helped hundreds of clients, it takes me hours to set up a trust for clients. And so for you to do it yourself the first time, to spend 10 minutes doing it, it's not enough. You have to understand the whole process. You have to understand how to draft, how to sign, how to transfer assets. That's just part of it. And so I want to go through that process with you. And if you need more information, check out my free class at freetrustclass.com. So the overall process is really simple, really easy. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make decisions. Who's going to take care of things for you when you're disabled or when you pass away? Who's going to receive your assets, your house, your money? You make those decisions. Usually what we typically do is we have a worksheet that we fill out with our clients, and this makes sure that you've had time to make these decisions, and also to spell out everything correctly, make sure the names are correct, make sure you understand who gets what. And so all of that is put into a worksheet so that we don't make mistakes. So if you check out my free trust class, I'll go over that in more detail. So first you make your decisions. After you do that, you're gonna make your documents. So there's a lot of free online trust softwares that you can use online. In my trust class, I share with you the one that I use, and so you should check out my free trust class. So once you make the documents, you're going to review the documents, make sure you understand them, and then you're going to sign the documents. It's very important that you sign documents correctly. If you don't sign documents correctly, your documents are not going to work. They're not going to be enforceable. So understand those rules. Again, my freetrustclass.com, I explain all of this. Transfer your assets into your trust. That's really important. It's not enough to just sign your trust. It's not enough to just have a trust. You have to make sure that your house, your bank accounts go inside the trust. Because if nothing's in your trust, nothing's going to be controlled by the trust. So make sure you have the trust with you. Make sure you transfer assets into your trust. And finally, keep your trust updated and funded. Updated meaning if you have any changes to your goals, if you don't want your brother to manage the process for you after you pass away, you want your sister to do it now, or your children, you want to make sure you update your trust. And make sure it's funded. Funded meaning whenever you buy a new home, whenever you open up a new bank account, make sure it's transferred into the trust. Funding is a legal term that we use, but it basically means transferring assets into your trust to make sure that it's there. It avoids probate when you pass away, and your trustee, the person you want to manage the distributions for you, will be able to take control of it when you pass away. So that's the overall process. It's really simple, and I break it down further in my free trust class. So what happens when you are disabled? A lot of people don't plan for this when it comes to living trust, but it's also really important because the question is, who takes control of your assets when you're disabled? If you have dementia, if you're in a coma, someone needs to take control of your assets to use it for your benefit while you're alive. And so you have to choose someone to step in to manage your trust assets while you are still alive, but while you need care, while you need someone to step in and make sure everything is used for your benefit. So another question is, how can your trust help you when you're disabled? Well, a trust helps you because you get to choose someone you trust to manage the assets for you while you're alive. And this person needs to use your money, your properties for you, for your benefit. They can't take it and give it to your beneficiaries. That's a misconception. When someone's disabled, the beneficiaries cannot come and say, hey, mom's disabled now, give me all my inheritance. It doesn't work that way. There's an order to things, and when you're disabled, your kids cannot spend your money, use your assets for their benefit. They have to use it for your benefit. And so it's very important in your trust to say that when I'm disabled, I want this person to take care of all these assets for me and me alone. So that's why when it comes to disability, it's really important to have a trust that says those specific details to protect yourself. So that's what happens when you're disabled. You want to make sure someone you trust will be able to take care of you and your assets when you're disabled. Now, what happens to your trust when you die? Okay, the first question is, who takes control and who gets to look at the trust and to follow your wishes? Well, your trustee takes control, and the trustee is the person you trust to step in and basically step into your own shoes and manage all these assets for you. They're going to look at the trust and they're going to say, okay, what did this person want me to do with these assets? How do I distribute these assets to their beneficiaries? So it's really important to choose someone you trust with your life, with your assets, to be able to follow your wishes, because if you do not choose someone, then someone you don't trust could potentially come in, control everything, and then steal everything. The one thing about living trust is that it's not monitored by a judge, because a trust helps you avoid probate, which is good. However, you need to make sure that the trustee is the person that you trust, because the trustee basically acts like a judge in the sense that they manage the whole process and they oversee the whole process. And so if you have a trustee who does not have integrity, who's known to steal, then potentially he or she could potentially steal your assets and not give it to your beneficiaries. And so choosing someone you trust to be the trustee is really important. And so what's the process like, and how will your family inherit your assets? Well, the process is also really simple when it comes to administering your trust. First, the trustee, the person you named as the trustee, steps in, and they would prepare paperwork, usually with the help of a lawyer, and the trustee would notify all of your beneficiaries that you have passed away. And so there's a formal process of doing that. Every state has their own laws, and usually the trustee does it with the help of a lawyer to prepare these legal documents. And after the trustee does that, the trustee would be able to take control of all the assets, your properties, your financial accounts, your personal belongings. All of those is controlled by the trustee. Okay, so your beneficiaries cannot take control of any of that yet, because the trustee's in charge of distributing the assets. And so the trustee would read the trust and say, okay, how do I distribute these assets? And so he'll look at it and say, okay, this person gets this, that person gets that. And so before the trustee distributes the assets, the trustee has to pay all of your debts. All of your debts need to be paid beforehand. So any medical bills needs to be paid, any credit card bills needs to be paid through the trust, and after that, all the assets will go to the people that you want it to go to. And so one of the things that you can do is, as a parent or as the owner of your assets, in your trust, you can actually dictate when and how your beneficiaries receive your assets. So your trust can say, when I pass away after all debts are paid, these assets will go to these people. And let's say you don't care what these people do with these assets, then you can say, hey, these people can get everything outright. We use this legal term called outright, meaning the trustee would just hand it over to them. So for example, if you want to give your house outright to somebody, after all debts are paid, the house will be transferred to that person, and that person would be the legal owner of the property. They can sell it, they can keep it, they can refinance it, they can give it away, they can do anything they want with it. So that's one way of leaving assets to your beneficiaries. Another way of doing it is to maintain some control. So for example, you can say, for example, I want my kids to have everything. However, I want my trustee to basically give them money whenever they need it for their health care, for their education, for their food, shelter, for their clothing. However, I want everything to be controlled by the trustee. I don't want my kids to receive everything at once. I want the trustee to control their spending. And you can also say in your trust that once they reach a certain age, then they can take out everything. So for example, once they reach 30, 35, 40, whatever age you feel like they'd be more mature to handle these assets, then your trust can say, okay, now kids, I trust you. You get the keys, no more trustee. You get to control and to spend, invest, and do anything you want with my assets. And so that process really depends on how you set up the trust. And a really common question I get is, do you need to file taxes on behalf of the trust? Or I guess the more specific question is, do my beneficiaries need to file taxes? Do my trustees need to file taxes? And the answer is yes. Once you pass away, your trust will be its own entity, with its own tax ID number, and so at that time, the trustee would have to file taxes on behalf of the trust. And the trustee can hire a CPA to do everything regarding taxes, and so you don't need to choose a trustee that is well-versed in taxes. So as you can see, the whole process of the trust administration process is very simple. You don't have to go to court. That's why a lot of people, they set up a trust. When you're a homeowner and you own property, if you don't have a trust, let's say you have a will, or you don't even have a will at all, then your assets are actually going to go through probate court. It's a really long process. When you own real property, it could take 2 years or more. And so you want to make sure you help your kids avoid probate, ensure that they receive their inheritance. They don't have to wait 2 or more years to do that. They can receive it, and also they don't have to spend a lot of money. Probate attorney fees are very, very expensive. It can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And so making sure that your properties are protected in the trust is so important for the children. And having a trust means that everything can be done privately. When you're in probate court, everything's public. All your assets are public. Who gets what, that's all public. And so don't have a will when you have property. Make sure that you set up a trust to protect your properties as well as your money from going through probate. So if you want to learn more about setting up your own trust the right way so you can protect your house from probate with confidence and without making mistakes, check out my free trust class at freetrustclass.com. I'm not here to sell you my legal services. My number one goal is to make sure you keep more money in the family and give yourself that peace of mind. So click the link in the description below to register for the free class so you can create your own living trust without hiring a lawyer. And I want to leave you with this Bible verse in Proverbs. It says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So the reason why I want to share this verse with you is for 2 reasons. Number one, when you set up a trust for your family, you're letting them know that you love them but also you're letting them know how to treat their children as well when they're getting a little bit older and they need to do their own trust. Is they can learn from you during this process, because when we don't have a trust and we own property, it's a mess when it comes to probate, when it comes to your kids receiving their inheritance. And so when you set up a trust for your kids, they're going to learn from it, right? They're going to learn how to do it correctly, because the Bible also says a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And so when we follow God's principles, when we obey, when we go through life His way, then we're able to do things right. And one of the things to do right is to make sure that when you pass away, your kids will be able to receive without any problems or headaches or money that's not necessary. And so it really is a beautiful gift that you give your children, and your children's children can learn from this as well. And so I encourage you to set up a trust, whether it's hiring a lawyer or doing it yourself. And number two, the other reason why I'm sharing this verse with you is because a lot of clients, they ask me, how do I make sure that my kids don't squander their inheritance? How do I set up a trust in a way that protects them from that? And you can do it in the trust. For example, you can say, hey, my kids can't touch the assets until they're a certain age. Before then, my trustees will manage the assets for them. You can do it this way, okay? However, it's so much better, just like Proverbs, what Proverbs says is to train up your child in the way he should go, so even when he's old, he will not depart from it. So while your kids are still young, if you have young kids, or even when your kids are in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, you can still share your wisdom with them in terms of how to spend, how to invest, how to be good stewards with what God's given them. So I want to encourage you to have this open dialogue with your children early. It's never too late, but they're going to inherit something from you. And so train them up now, so when they do receive it, the likelihood of them squandering it, wasting it, would be dramatically reduced. Okay? So that's my prayer for you today. If you have any questions for me regarding living trust, please ask me in the description below, and I'll do my best to answer it in my next video. All right, until then, God bless you. I'll see you soon.